Here are some facts that you probably didn't know that one day could save your life. Part 4. If you ever need to escape a moving car, do not jump out. Put one foot down and take a step. This will significantly reduce your speed and you'll have a much greater chance of surviving the fall. If you can't do a pull-up, you probably won't have the strength to pull yourself up off of a ledge. Wolves will only attack you if they can intimidate you into running away from them. Standing your ground against a wolf pack will be terrifying, but eventually, they'll leave you alone. If you ever get carjacked and they tell you to drive, crash the car into a nearby road or intersection. Most likely they won't be wearing their seatbelt, so when you crash the car, they'll get injured and you can take this chance to get out of the car and run like hell. If a service dog ever approaches you without its owner, follow them and do it quickly, because you could potentially save someone else's life.
Here are facts you didn't know that one day could save your life. Part 4. If you're ever stuck in quicksand, lie down. It's like floating on water. The desperation of your weight will make you float. If you're on a plane that crashes into the water, don't inflate your life vest until you swim out of the plane. If you inflate your life jacket before escaping, you're much more likely to get trapped in the plane. A wagging tail does not always mean that a dog is friendly. Don't be silent for extended periods of time if you're hiking in the wilderness. Bears prefer to avoid confrontation and would most likely avoid you if you make your presence known. Sleep with your doors closed. Fires while you sleep can leave your room almost completely untouched if closed. Purple flags at the beach mean dangerous sea life in the area. If you get lost in the woods, stay where you are. The chances of finding your way out on your own are pretty slim, and you're just creating a larger search area for the SAR.
Advice that could save your life one day, except the scenarios become increasingly more likely to actually happen. If you're ever driving a car and the acceleration gets stuck and you can't stop it, put your car in neutral and let it slow itself down. You shouldn't try to take out the keys until the car has completely stopped moving, or else you're gonna lock the steering wheel. If you ever find yourself face to face with a hostile, aggressive dog, don't try to run away from it, because I can promise you, it's gonna catch up. What you have to do is keep eye contact with it while backing up and yelling at it. If it starts attacking you, don't waste time trying to pry its mouth off of you. What you should do instead is grab it by its hind legs and lift that bitch into the air. This is how you should stop dog fights too. If you or someone you know is choking, but they can still cough or even talk, then you're not choking, at least not yet. The object is only partially obstructed. You should let them just try to cough it out. If you try to intervene by doing the Heimlich maneuver, yeah, you could force it out, or you could make it fully obstructed, which is a much worse situation to have. But you should learn how to do the Heimlich maneuver on somebody else, and on yourself.
Creepy facts. Hens have no lungs. Christmas lights once were used as a killing method. Left-handed people die earlier than right-handed people do.
Neil deGrasse Tyson recently did an interview where he said if the earth was small, it would be smooth. But what about the giant holes? Or the mountains? The earth has a diameter of 7,917 miles. Now think about this. The highest point of earth, which is Mount Everest, is just over 29,000 feet, or 5.5 miles. The lowest point of earth, which is Challenger Deep, is almost 7 miles. That means the distance of the highest point of earth and the lowest point of earth is barely over 12 miles. That's not even half the distance across Los Angeles. So yeah, it's true. If you were able to hold the earth in the palm of your hand, it would be smoother than a cue ball.
Did you guys know that OJ Simpson confessed to the murders? As many of you may know, OJ was a famous football player and entertainer in the 70s and 80s. When OJ was 30 years old, he met 18-year-old Nicole Brown, who was a waitress at a bar, and in 1985, they got married. After some time, OJ and Nicole have 2 kids, and he eventually starts to change, and he starts being super possessive, controlling, and he starts to physically and emotionally abuse Nicole. After years of infidelity and abuse, Nicole decided that she wanted to file for divorce. A year later, Nicole decides to get back with OJ, but then she quickly leaves him again because he continues to be abusive towards her. On June 1994, Nicole and her friend Ron Goldman were found dead in front of her house while her kids were sleeping upstairs. The neighbors that found Nicole and Ron immediately contacted police, and when police arrived to the scene, they contacted OJ, and OJ said he was already in Chicago. Police found so much evidence. They found a bloody glove, they found footprints that matched OJ's, and they also found blood in OJ's home. When police were questioning OJ, his whereabouts were all over the place. So many people that knew OJ did not think that he did this, and they supported him throughout the whole thing. And honestly, it was only because he was famous that he got away with so much. OJ hired the best defense attorney to help him out with this case, including Robert Shapiro and, yes, Robert Kardashian, the Kardashians' father. OJ spent about $50K every day for his attorneys, and apparently he still owes money to Robert Shapiro. The prosecution was so confident that they were going to win this case, but unfortunately in 1995, OJ was not found guilty for Nicole and Ron's murder. Long story short, the defense attorney did a really good job in changing the entire tone of the trial, and instead of talking about the evidence, they were focusing more on the racial aspect. In 2006, OJ agrees to sit down for an interview, and this is when he basically confesses to the whole thing. OJ said the following: "I had no conscious memory of doing it, but obviously I must have because they found a glove." OJ also released a book called If I Did It, and this was just a money grab because he was broke and needed money. 20 years later, Robert Shapiro admits that he knew OJ did it.
Here are some facts that you probably didn't know that one day could save your life. Part 5. The machine that sets the pins at the bowling alley is extremely dangerous. So if you slide into the pins as a joke, there is a very good chance that you will be crushed to death. Most drunk driving deaths occur on Saturday between 1 and 3 a.m. Avoid roads during these times if you can help it. If your hair suddenly stands up on the end, duck and cover. You're about to be struck by lightning. Sleep with your door closed. Unlike your parents, a fire will leave your room almost completely untouched if closed. You can always dial 911 if you have no bars, because in an emergency, your phone will connect to any nearby cell tower as long as it has a battery in it. If you ever wake up in the middle of the night to the smell of gas, do not turn on the light. A spark from a light switch could blow up the entire house.
Facts about money that will blow your mind. Officials in Tokyo went to visit this man to name him the oldest person in their city at 111 years old. But they did not expect what they were about to find out. They were turned away by his 81-year-old daughter multiple times. She cited a few different reasons, from him being a human vegetable to him becoming a Buddhist monk and practicing extreme discipline. After the welfare officials were denied multiple times, they became a little suspicious and asked the police to investigate. When the police gained access to the house, they discovered the man's mummified body. He was lying in bed, wearing his pajamas, covered by a blanket. This man had been dead for over 30 years. The daughter had collected more than $100,000 in pension payments. The cause of death was never determined because of the state of the man's body after lying in his bed for multiple decades. The daughter was found guilty of fraud, making her pay back the entirety of the pension payments. A welfare official was quoted saying, "His family must have known he was dead for all of these years and acted like nothing happened. It's so eerie." A study following the discovery of this man's remains showed that the police didn't know if more than 200,000 people over the age of 100 were even alive anymore due to poor record keeping.
Have you guys heard of the McDonald's cursed bench in Mexico? The story goes that there's a bench and it has a Ronald McDonald mannequin sitting on it. Now there were two men that went to the club around the area. And you know how after a party or a club, you want to go get something to eat. So that's what they did. And they found a McDonald's that was open 24/7. They go in, they get their food, and you know, thinking nothing of it. It's just a regular night. Now this is where it gets scary. Don't judge me. I know I'm a weirdo for doing this, but I love it. So they get their food, they walk out, and they decide to sit on the bench. Just to have somewhere to sit while they eat their food. Once they're done, one of the guys gets both of their trash and goes to throw it out in the garbage. While the friend is waiting, he decides to lay on the lap of the Ronald McDonald mannequin on the bench. I got a question before I continue the story. McDonald's or Wendy's, which one do you think is better? Let me know, I want to see who wins. But once the guy laid on the lap, he goes, "Man, I'm tired." That's when the Ronald McDonald statue turned, looked down, and says, "So am I." This guy was so scared he ran off and never went to that McDonald's again. Now supposedly there's security footage and everything of this. People all around the area have seen the Ronald McDonald statue in the middle of the night walking around and moving.
5 teens would unalive a man after throwing rocks off an overpass. Let's talk about it. That brings me to 32-year-old Kenneth White from Vienna Township, Michigan. He had 4 kids and a fiance. Kenneth, who was a construction worker, was riding passenger seat with his other co-worker who was also a construction worker. They were on their way from a job going on I-75. Unfortunately, there were a group of 5 teens on an overpass playing a game they called Overpassers, where they would drop rocks, and if you hit a car, you would get points from this. Before playing this little game, they had loaded up around 20 pounds of rocks in the bed of their pickup truck. After playing this game for a bit, they would pick up a 6-pound rock and throw it off the bridge, to which it would fall down on Kenneth as they were driving. The boys would soon leave the scene and go get some fast food. After being hit with the rock, Kenneth would pass, suffering from a fractured skull, facial, and chest injuries. A couple days would pass and the boys would hear about what had happened to Kenneth, and they would start getting nervous, and as they should, as police would soon catch up with them and they would be forced to turn themselves in. Kyle Anger, who was the only adult in the situation, would be sentenced to 3 to 20 years, while the other 4, Mark Sikelski, Micah Den Payne, Trevor Gray, and Alexander Miller, would get probation.
Okay, so what's actually going on with these bodies being found in the Chicago River? And is it really a serial killer? So in the last month, several bodies have washed ashore in the Chicago River and in Lake Michigan. And so far, police don't think that the deaths are related. So one obvious explanation could be that the weather's just warming up and bodies that were trapped under layers of ice are now rising to the surface. But that doesn't explain how they got there in the first place. Let's not forget that since 1999, there's been over 50 women who have been killed by what they believe is a serial killer, one that has still never been found. Most of these women were Black, many of them were sex workers, and none of them have been solved. This so-called Chicago Strangler could still be out there. And it's quite possible that as more bodies wash ashore, more answers about this could be found.
I am tired of all the crazy things. Oldest person to hike the Appalachian Trail. The ozone layer is healing faster than expected and could fully recover in our lifetimes. Helsinki has had 0 car crashes in the last 12 months. They've purposely been lowering speed limits and upgrading infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists.
This priest tied himself to 1,000 colorful helium balloons and then was found in the ocean months later. On April 20th, 2008, 41-year-old Father Adiller DeCarli wanted to raise money to build a chapel in his hometown, so he chose to tie himself up to 1,000 helium balloons and float over the ocean. He also hoped to break the previous 19-hour record, but unfortunately, things ended tragically. On the morning of April 20th, Father Adiller was fully prepared to take off, and for safety reasons, he put on a helmet, waterproof coveralls, and an aluminum thermal flight suit, as well as a GPS tracker and a radio to communicate with people on the ground. Only a few hours hours after taking off, despite the radio and GPS tracker, Father Adiller disappeared and could not be located. The last thing that he said through the radio was that he was losing height and was going to land in the ocean. Search and rescue teams were immediately dispatched, and after 2 days, they found the colorful balloons in the sea off Brazil's southeast coast, but Father Adiller was not there. Then, a few months later, a body was found in the ocean, which turned out to be him. It was reported that the priest had reached an altitude of 20,000 feet and then was blown off course by the strong winds, causing his tragic death.
No, can you tell that there is something wrong with this picture? At first, when I saw this picture, I couldn't really tell what it was about it that felt strange, but I knew something was off. I had to get some of the backstory and some of the context on it to understand what the picture was even from. This was back in 2016 when the Saturn family went missing, including their daughter. Nobody knew what happened to these people, but effectively their home became a crime scene, which is where the photo came from. Before we dive in, a huge thank you to you for listening to Creep Time, the podcast. If you haven't listened, go click the link in my bio and listen on Spotify or Apple. This picture, this was from the initial walkthrough of the home. They typically walk through a home, they'll take photos of every room because it's effectively a crime scene, it's an investigation. But if you look at the central mirror, right towards the back of the reflection, you would see that this person is not alone in this room. It was only discovered after the fact that it appeared to be someone was hiding in the darkness next to the chair. Whoever's face this was, police believe they might have been responsible for the disappearance, because why would they be hiding?
Noah Enos went to a concert at the Salt Shed on Goose Island, but he never made it home.
They put up this flyer tonight hoping someone in the community will recognize him and call police. His girlfriend tells me this is all very unusual. A 6-year-old never made it home Monday night after attending a concert at the Salt Shed.
This vigil outside the Salt Shed, not just to remember Noah Enos, but his family says to remember all the young people who've gone missing in Chicago and were recovered in bodies of water.
A Great Lakes sailor is missing.
Yeah, a search party is expected to meet later this morning in Waukegan.
And this is the last known video of Gray just outside of Ibiza nightclub in Waukegan. Gray was last seen on camera right there walking down an alley away from the nightclub.
And we have new details this morning on the death of a Northwestern student found in Lake Michigan in December. His body was pulled from Diversey Harbor on December 21st. The Cook County Medical Examiner announced yesterday his cause of death was accidental drowning.
A young businessman disappeared and was later found dead.
There's a male by the shore. He's not moving. Unresponsive.
Nobody saw him leaving.
Wednesday morning, their worst fears were confirmed when police responded to a call just before 2 a.m. about an unresponsive man in the water.
So it's not natural. It's like a possible drowning.
Police have confirmed a body found in the Chicago River is that of 23-year-old Iñaki Bascaron.
The University of Illinois graduate and resident of Lakeview had not been heard from since Halloween early Sunday morning. Yesterday afternoon, just before 5 o'clock, the Chicago Police Department Marine Unit recovered a body from the Chicago River near the 1000 block of South Wells Street. Not long after, police confirmed it was that of Iñaki Bascaron.
This is Australia's worst female serial killer, or at least she was, until last month when new evidence came to light that proved her innocence all along. In 2003, Catherine Folbig was sentenced to 25 years in prison for murdering her 3 children, 2 girls, Sarah and Laura, and 1 son, Patrick, as well as manslaughter against her other son, Caleb, between the years 1989 and 1999. Here's what happened. All 4 Folbig children died in their sleep when they're only 19 days old to 18 months old. Her son, Caleb, was the first Folbig child to pass, who everyone initially thought died of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. But then when her other 2 infant daughters, Sarah and Laura, died suddenly with no explanation, that's when the rumors began to swirl of foul play. Eventually, those rumors took an ugly form that Kathleen must have smothered each of her children to death. Her husband divorced her in 2000, believing the rumors to be true. Then a year later in 2001 is when she was officially arrested and convicted in a trial that became a 7-week media circus. The thing was, there was no concrete evidence that Kathleen had smothered any of her children or was the cause of her children's untimely death in any way. So what led to her ultimate conviction? The jury sealed her fate based on a personal diary entry that her husband turned over to the police. Kathleen writes, quote, "The guilt about them all haunts me," which the prosecution of course used to imply Kathleen's apparent guilt for killing her children. The defense vehemently argued that this was all circumstantial evidence, but the power of the media and public opinion prevailed and the jury found her guilty. For 3 decades, Kathleen has maintained her innocence. Kathleen already served 20 of those 25 years, and she was finally released on June 5th, 2023, because it was discovered that all 4 of her children died of natural causes. But how?
This is 18-year-old Hannah Graham, and in 2014, she was abducted and murdered from Charlottesville, Virginia. Hannah was originally from England, and in 2014, she began attending the University of Virginia in the United States. On the night of September 12th, which turned into the morning of September 13th, 2014, Hannah was out at a party. At 1:20 a.m., she texted her friends that she was going to another party but was lost. And that was the last time they heard from her. Hannah was seen on surveillance footage that night at a place called Tempo Restaurant. According to surveillance footage and witnesses, that night Hannah was with 32-year-old Jesse Leroy, or LJ Matthew. Witnesses said that Matthew was seen at the restaurant with Hannah and that Hannah looked drunk and that he had his arm around her. The last witness to see Hannah alive said that she was with a man who did not look friendly. The witness saw Hannah standing by a vehicle that was later identified as Matthew's vehicle, saying, "I'm not getting in the car with you." But that was the last time she was seen. Searches around the area began after Hannah was reported missing, but no sign of her was found. But then on October 18th, 2014, searchers with the Chesterfield County Sheriff's Office found human remains. This was found at an abandoned property in Charlottesville. A few days later, the remains were confirmed to be those of Hannah Graham. Her manner of death was revealed to be homicide, but they did not release her cause of death. The suspect in Hannah Graham's disappearance and murder was that man that she was with that night, 32-year-old Jesse Leroy Matthew Jr. Before Hannah's body was found, police searched his car and apartment but did not share his name. They identified him as a person of interest and eventually took items of clothing from his apartment, but again did not share the importance of those. On September 21st, they issued an arrest warrant for Matthew on charges of reckless driving. And then 2 days later, on September 23rd, he was charged with abduction. He was arrested on September 24th in a sparsely populated part of Galveston County, Texas. And then on September 29th, it was reported that evidence taken from Matthew matched evidence from a 2009 murder. This is Morgan Dana Harrington, and she was murdered in 2009. And apparently, Matthew was seen with her the night she disappeared. Hannah Graham's remains were found about 5 miles from where Morgan's remains were found. In February 2015, Matthew was indicted on first-degree murder charges related to Hannah. And then in March 2016, he pled guilty to capital murder. He also pled guilty to Morgan Harrington's murder.